I returned back to this place after many years. It's changed somewhat since they've started tidying up the grounds. Last time I was here there were more trees, and the old cemetery was looking a little bit worse for wear, but in its way it's a lot better now, a bit more cleaned up. One of the reasons I've come back here is that I'm trying to rekindle my memories as to what actually happened here. I was standing somewhere around about where I am now, just mooching around, looking around the building, looking inside the church, with a view to going over to the abbey, which is behind me, when all of a sudden, right out of the blue, a gentleman appeared in spirit, three-dimensional, all white, and you could see all the details as to what you can actually see in an ordinary human being. This guy was burly, quite a big build, barrel-chested, very strong looking, and he appeared right about where this grave is. Whether or not that grave has anything to do with him, I do not know. He was dressed all in white, and he was white because he was in spiritual form, an energy, whatever you wish to call them. Now what he did was he stood there for a few minutes, and I watched him right about from where I am now, and I'm talking only a few feet away. This gentleman was wearing what we would class as religious robes, or maybe church robes of that particular period in time when he was alive. Why he came or where he came from, I do not know. I can explain something about that later on when I've gone back round the old church. Now he was wearing, as I said, a robe or a garment that belonged to the church, and round his shoulders he had what we would class as a sash, quite a large one, maybe 8 inches in width, that sat flat on his shoulders and sat flat on his back, and it went around his shoulders and down the front of his body and finished somewhere around about the knees. In his hands he had some sort of a rod or a staff which was quite thick. It was about 4 feet in length, and on the end of the rod was some sort of shape or form like a ball. That's the nearest I can say. I have actually seen this kind of thing in our Houses of Parliament, and he carried it towards the church door, right over there. And I stood and watched this guy. I didn't know what he was supposed to be doing or what he was going to do, and he got to the front entrance, and he proceeded to bang 3 times in succession of equal lengths on the door. And I stood and watched him. I'm only a few feet away, and then he paused for a little while. He leaned back and did exactly the same thing, hammering on the door. Then he came back outside the church and he simply disappeared. Trying not to step on any of the graves here, bless them. This one's interesting, only I can't read it all, only snippets of it. But it's from the bits I do understand, it's quite good. This is the second part of a second happening. I came down this path, reached this particular point, and I noticed that there was the spirit of a woman standing right next to the bench, a little bit to the left hand side where the edge of this raised platform or raised path. Now what I noticed is that she was looking to my left, somewhere over there, and I actually stopped. I didn't move any further forward because I tried to understand what was going on. I had the feeling that she was here for a particular purpose. I waited a little while, and then curiosity got the better of me, and I started moving forward. When I got to this spot, I noticed that she was looking over to my left, and I spotted the spirit of a soldier. That soldier was standing facing the brightest of the gravestones over there, and he was simply looking down at it. I didn't understand for the moment as to what was going on, but I had some sort of what we call inkling. My intuition kicked in, and I understood that this particular individual had come to look at back at his grave where he was buried. And then I actually decided to wait a little while until this scenario had played itself out, and then I could feel that it was my turn to move over to the grave, which I will now, and see if I could find out a little bit more. I understood that the lady that was stood here had accompanied him, a kind of a support for him, and the two of them had actually just come on a thing called a revisitation or a visitation of something to do with this individual. Now this is precisely where the spirit stood, and I came and looked down at what was the grave, or what is the grave, of a soldier. His name is Philip Scott, from the 3rd Battalion, the Rifles, who died presumably on the 5th of November 2009 at the age of 30. And I made it my point to try to look up this gentleman and see if I could find any more about him. It wasn't through morbid curiosity, it was simple understanding or caring what had happened to this particular gentleman, and I simply wanted to find out a little bit more about him, nothing more than that, and I did. And from there on, it gave me some more information that put my mind at rest as to why this gentleman should be standing right where I am and looking back at his own grave. I come with respect for this particular individual, Philip Scott, and I come with respect for everybody here. Now, you can understand that if you are wandering around a graveyard or cemetery like this, and you try to explain to individuals who do not know or understand about the happenings of souls that cross over, or understand about spiritual form and anything to do with life beyond the life we live, you can well understand that they're going to be touchy or sensitive, or perhaps they do not want to know, and simply think that there's something wrong with anybody who actually tries to speak, advertise, call it what you will, or talk about life beyond the life we live. In my case, I've had it since I was 6 years old, and that's quite a number of years ago. But I'm too old to care about what people think. My beliefs are my beliefs, and I understand and appreciate other people have their own beliefs. But what I will not accept are people who try to dismiss that we do not exist once we cross over, once we have died. They think that that's it, they're gone forever, or we're gone forever, and that's not true. We simply cross over to the spirit realm. Now, there are many variations on that theme of where we actually go in spirit, but that's another story. But for this particular video, it's simply about happenings that we all, or most of us, see or experience, and in a lot of cases don't understand. But I do. I've explained that I've stood here right where I am now and saw the spirit of what I now know to be the mother of the soldier that was stood looking down at his own grave. The story for me then is that he's simply come to experience the understanding of a visitation. You come back from the spirit realm and you simply want to stand at your own grave and look down. Maybe there's some sort of thing going on in this gentleman or this soul's mind, as to wondering why he crossed over when he was so young. I believe it's 30 years old, and I can understand that. It's trying to find answers. So that particular story, in my mind, is sorted out for both them and myself. Now, this particular church, there are a number of happenings that have gone on in my past, especially going back maybe 10, 15 years. Some of them are quite profound. The kind of things people would say only belong in the cinema. But for me, it was my work. In remembrance of Evelyn Kathleen James, elder daughter of Arthur Charles, 4th Duke of Wellington, and wife of Robert, younger son of Walter Henry, 2nd Baron, Northbourne, born 30th of July 1873 and died in 19th of January 1922. Skull and crossbones. I wonder what that's all about. Intricately carved. In memory of Jane, dearly beloved or dearly loved wife of William Darwin Skeeby, died 1913, aged 53 years, until the daybreak. Or Millicest, however you pronounce it, Darwin, aged 2 years, bless him, and Edwin Darwin, aged only 3 months. That's sad. So young, or to be taken so young. 3 months. Here's another. Died March 18th, 1854, aged 6 months, bless him. Also George, their son, died April 28th, 1867, aged 8 months or 3 months, I think it's 8 months. Also of Joseph, their son, died April 28th, 1877, aged 13 years or 18 years. I think it's 18 years. Those particular years were sad times. People didn't last long. In loving memory of George Island of Easby, who fell asleep on July the 4th, 1901, aged 43 years. The path of the just is as a shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. Proverbs 4:18. Also Olive Muriel, daughter of the above, who entered into rest 10th February 1923, aged 29 years. Also Elizabeth, wife of the above, died 16th of February 1940. Bless them. Lumps of rock. They must be old graves, because this cemetery is quite old, and plenty of these graves are actually from the 1700s, early 1800s. I'm trying to wonder if one of these gravestones is connected to the spirit that I actually saw appear here. He just came out of nowhere, and then as I said, I was stood over by that grave in memory of Anne Wynne, who died May 12th, 1800s. And there's another one here, I can't read, who was an officer in the Royal Artillery, who died March 1820, aged 37. This one's George Wilkinson, 1866, 1865. I struggle to see the last number. Peace be with you. Well, here's a gentleman, Stephen Canswick, or Kansick, late of Easby, who by an unhappy fall from his horse left the awful warning of a sudden death. He was a kind, generous and beloved, benevolent man, much respected by his friends, and deeply lamented by his relatives, who died February 14th, 1832, I think it says, aged 39 years. I could be wrong. To the memory of, take it to be Mary, the daughter of George and Mary Davison, who died February the 23rd, no, 28th, I think, 1770. Now the word died is spelled D-Y-E-D, not D-I-E-D. Also George Davison, who died, on here it says who died D-I-E-D. Over there it says D-Y-E-D. D-Y-E-D. That's interesting, built like a table. Oh, now these are quite strong looking, built to withstand all that nature can throw at them. It's a pleasant place to be, this. You just got to watch where you put your feet. Here lieth the body of Mary Poveril, who died December 1772, aged 33, I think. Oh bless. Now these are the faces of history. So too, when it is our time, shall we be joining them. And thereafter the children of the future shall link arms with us once they too return back to the soil. It kind of makes you more philosophical about life. The word that springs to mind is the word respect. Respect for life. And that's one of the things that comes to mind when I look back at these children of the past. Beside this stone are interred the remains of, I'm assuming it's something Lynette, the beloved wife of John Bailey Langthorne, Deputy Registrar of the Diocese of Ripon. She died on the 29th of July 1845 in the 27th year of her age. Oh bless, I hate to see people go before it's their time, really. Or maybe it was her time, but there's another one here where two gravestones are actually tight up against each other, with all the writing on equal sides. I wonder if they put it on the wrong way around and whether the individuals are placed that way, or maybe they've just built on top of the one behind. One of the things that's just sprung to my mind is that there are a certain number of individuals nationwide and assumably worldwide that are under the understanding, including myself, that when something manifests in front of them or is enacted in front of them spiritually, it is simply a recording in time or an echo in time, a reverb, like stones skimming on the water. I liken it to a play being enacted on a stage, where the actors portray a certain storyline for the benefit of the watching public, and they create this storyline night after night, week after month, year after year, and it just goes on repeating the same understanding. That's kind of like what it is. That it is literally an echo of the excuse me, that it is an echo that is similar to what has previously gone before. That's a kind of schooling I'd love to get to know more about. But I have just been informed by Spirit not to take it for granted. It is something to do with the timeline. Being a story of world events, and it's something needed. It's something to do with need, something relating to the future, the generations of the future are in. This is what I'm being picking up. The generations that are to come from the future have to understand past world events. And I'm also getting it's like going to a library and you open a book and you read this, a kind of a schooling, and that you go, the generations keep going back to these libraries and looking at these same books in order to learn. And it is, I'm getting something to do with it. It's like an iron fist, like a gauntlet. I'm picking up understandings that it is laid down in rules and regulations, like going to the cinema. A must see, must experience. They'll be more bringing it down to earth. It's more like sitting on a bench and simply watching the world go by. And it's clock keeps ticking, and it's time after time after time. We've got to experience this thing. And now I'm being shown a Bible. It's like, are they saying it's in the Bible? Now this I've got to check on. But I can understand it to the number of individuals who take the Bible and they need the Bible, they read the Bible, they experience the Bible. So if I take it that as being told that it's like it is a necessity, and I'm being given it is a value in terms of perspective, not to be taken for granted. I'm going to listen for a bit more, but that's not quite giving me the mechanics. I'd love to know the mechanics of the whole thing.